Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thank you. Uh, Welcome everybody to this weekly live Zoom and YouTube live stream with Don Garland and myself called Not Just This. So after the introductions, you can participate by unmuting yourself, turning on your camera and asking your question, or you can type it in the chat. And I think that's about it for what to say at the beginning. But I just glad everyone showed up and encourage you to ask your questions after the intros. And with that, I'll pass it to Don Garland, please.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, non-duality is a shift in perspective. On one level, it's a change from seeing yourself as a mind-body organism moving through time and space with a life to live into a state of, it's not a state, timelessness and just beingness. So there's a collapse of identity and what that includes, which is thought at the center of experience, being my experience. So the division between self and other has collapsed. So there's just this oneness, which is love, which is what has been sought all the while, but was always ever present. So in a sense, nothing happens because this is a seeing that nothing has happened, nothing will happen, and nothing is happening. So the self as we know it disappears, and there's just this oneness, which restores intimacy to experience, restores the sacred dimension to life, or the supernatural dimension, if you like. And so there's nowhere to get to from this, the seeing of this. And we were born into it. We were originally born into just this peace, this rest, which is what we're kind of all seeking one way or another. But life continues, but it continues for no one. And yeah, so it's all already realized. This is already the case. So awakening is already the case, but very often there's a moment in the story of time, which is where the human being lives. In the story of time, there's either a moment, a big bang moment, in which it is realized the true essence, if you like. There is not the essence. These words don't really capture it, but so that there was never a life to be lived. There was just whatever's happening. There's just life living itself. And that's beautiful, and it's peaceful. And in that, problems can arise and everything else can arise. So it's the same on one level, and on another level, life is very changed. So that's about all I want to say right now on the intro. I'll hand it back to Walter.
Thank you, Don. Let's see. I'll say something, but I just want to open it up. Really, I'm not too keen on giving too much of a non-duality talk, but basically, there was a veil lifted and a seeing of a oneness, if you will, and that everything just sort of emanates, outpours, appears, seems to happen from the same no source. I'd call it a source, but then that would be another thing. And there are no things. It's just this one apparent happening to no one by no one. And it was clearly seen that there are no individuals, these appearances of body, mind, organisms, just like Don said, life living itself. Nobody in there, no separate autonomous entity living its life with free will and volition and choice. Just the appearance of that, the appearance of choice, the appearance of a life being lived, and all the varieties of emotions and thoughts and situations that can appear. And the character gets caught up in all that, sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. But that's still just this one beautiful, perfect outpouring. And it's a weird dichotomy because I could be in all kinds of moods and sadness can arise or whatever. And it's still this beautiful, perfect outpouring. And there's no way to explain that that makes any sense, but you know, perfect sadness and this life being lived. And there's not like a witness, there's not like a separate character in the dream. It's just a dream. There's no waking up from it. It's all there is. So even the falling asleep, waking up, dreams of enlightenment, dreams of suffering and seeking, it's all a dream. There's no separation. There's no me plus the universe. There's no, like, the universe is doing things for me or against me, or I'm attracting this or propelling that. It's just what's coming. It's just what's being seen. It's just what's being experienced by no one. But it still seems to be happening. And it's all included. So we can talk about, you know, we talk about integration and therapy and ways to make a happier dream, because it's all allowed and it's all part of it. So to push away something like meditation or therapy is still within the dream. There's no getting out of it. There's no one in it. It's just all there is. So I was talking to Giselle earlier about sandboxes, and, you know, you can play anywhere you want in the dream. It's like a lucid dream. You know, it can become more light and free to explore and not be so rigid once you wake up in the dream, to the dream. Anyway, with that, we'll open it up for questions. Got a few people here in the Zoom or on YouTube. Thank you. Kevin, you got any questions?
Mhm.
Oh, you gotta unmute yourself. Sorry. Unmute. Oh, you gotta unmute.
I've got
Oh,
it.
there you go.
I've got
Yep.
it.
You hear me okay?
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I can't disagree with anything you've said. I mean, all that's makes sense to me. But just to sort of play devil's advocate a little bit, you see, or you appear to see these scenes of tremendous suffering and stuff around the world, and you see the agony, you see the distress, you hear the crying and what have you, and what you've just said, I get it, I understand that, and I can't totally disagree with it, but to the person who appears to be in that distress, I mean, it's a million miles away from what you're, saying is your experience. Is that, would you say that's simply what's appearing before you? That's just what is, and it's got no reality really, that situation.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Okay.
Yeah, it
What would
sounds like a dissociation to say that to me. So, like certain things move you. I mean, the person in distress, the one in distress may be awake, they may not, but they will know they're in distress, presumably, unless they really are dissociated from it. But so it's not about not caring. It's not about, I mean, compassion can be there. It really isn't that at all. In a certain, I mean, some people are very politically engaged, or, whether awake or not awake. So they may feel a calling to do something about people's distress, or on a more kind of individual level, someone might feel called to help. I mean, it's really not about disengaging or seeing it like, oh, well, you're not a person, therefore it's not real. It makes it less important. No fucking way. It's not like that at all. It certainly isn't like that here. If anything, it's more engaged, it's more in tune with, it's more empathy, it's more compassion. I guess there's not the conceit of like, necessarily knowing what to do about a situation, or that I can help, or like, depending on what it is. But yeah, I don't know if that answers, but
yeah, because it's sort of within the dream, isn't it? From what we're sort of discussing, I mean, there's beingness, which is all there is, and then there's this apparent reality which is going on here. So you know deeply that there's no one actually being affected, because there's no one there. It's all just a dream, really. And if you try, I'm not saying this is what I think, it's just what thoughts that are coming up, and just let them go out. If you go in a way to I'm thinking, if you try and change a situation, or if you respond to it in a deep and serious way, are you not, in a sense, strengthening the illusion?
see, I see that response as kind of dangerous in a way, because anyone takes non-duality literally. I mean, strengthening the illusion, I mean, it's none of my business about the illusion, whether it's there or not. It doesn't matter jack shit. It's like, I mean, that sounds dangerous to me, that idea. Like, it really does. It's about like, am I called to help in a situation or not? There's a seeing of the basic okayness. And for me, even saying the dream, this is reality. This is reality. It includes this, it includes that. It saying it's a dream in a sense can give the sense to maybe somebody who's seeking it, like, to minimize this. Like, I mean, it doesn't, just because it's all not ultimately the case, this is what we know, and suffering is fucking real. Like, so I think if anyone's got that attitude, I mean, I just find that really scary. Like, strengthening the illusion. I mean, that's coming from a point of view of oneness, as if there isn't a human being here with thoughts, feelings, and motivations, all the rest of it. I mean, the life is through this character here, and and it isn't, there's no purity in that. It's not like a pure fucking thing where, sorry, I keep swearing. I don't know why, maybe I just feel quite strongly at that point, but like to come at it from the point of view of like strengthen the illusion or not. I mean, a lot of abuse happens under that from like spiritual teachers, gurus, of like, that'll strengthen your ego, weaken your ego. I mean, it's not about strengthening, weakening, increasing the illusion, decreasing the illusion. That is meaningless here. To me, that is meaningless and is not something, it just sounds like manipulating, and it sounds dodgy to me. It's just like dodgy to me.
That's a good answer. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Got me really
Thank
tired.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Walter, have you got?
All right. Well, strengthening, not strengthening the illusion. See, when I'm sharing, I'm saying on the absolute level, it's always already this. So there is no strengthening or weakening. Whatever appears as this equally. So if the illusion appears strong, and this is what I was trying to say when I was saying getting caught up, not getting caught up. There is no me to return or to fall away or any of this stuff. It's all this is, it's all metaphor. When I talk about dreams, there's many metaphors people use, but none of them are, the map is not the territory, as they say, so you can't take any of this literally. And it's like Don and I always say in these meetings, when we're talking and it's not a non-duality meeting, we're not using the word apparently. We don't say apparent time every time we say time, and I know people that do that. And I think there's a difference between talking about it and then it just being the way it is. You know what I mean? There's such a disconnect there between using the language, thinking I'm not attached to the me, or I'm not falling for the trap of this illusion of Maya. All this has nothing to do with it. It's just what is. It's always just what is. And so when that's been seen, you can just talk about anything and like a normal person, and you don't, and if tragedies happen, you tend to respond in a very normal, organic fashion and show empathy and caring if that's your nature, or, it's just, this is the most natural thing. It always already is. It's just what's appearing. And so there's no trick to it. So there's no way you could push it away, bring it closer.
Yeah.
But it's also, to get it caught up in the language and use it as a way of escaping, maybe dealing with something by thinking this is not real. This is all there is. This is the only game in town. So, yeah, I mean, I say make it the best you can. And I know somebody could say, well, who's going to do that? There's no free will. Well, there's the illusion of free will, and I'm playing along. So this character is going to try to make the best choices for this character's life. And, I don't think there's any sort of feather in my cap if I become an aesthetic, or, in other words, ascetic, whatever that word is. Like people ask all these questions about special diets or rigorous trainings or long periods of sitting uncomfortably and all these things to try. This isn't based on merit, so a sin or a good deed, it's all the same. It's just what's appearing. You can't screw it up.
Well, that's it. Like you said, you can't do anything with it really if that's the case. I mean, this is only the being. Then we're within that. We are that, and so there's only one thing. How can you choose if there's only one thing? Where's the choice coming from? I mean, that's the dream again, isn't it? That we have free will, there's volition, etc. I mean, I get it from that point of view. I can imagine that, if what's the point in creating a universe and populating with all sorts of people and animals and everything doing the same thing? I mean, you might as well not bother. So, each point of perception, if you like, has its apparent volition. It makes it more interesting, I suppose. Again, I'm just throwing thoughts out. But ultimately, you're not choosing. Ultimately, I don't think I chose to come here to this Zoom meeting. I think I've just appeared in this Zoom meeting and you've appeared before me. I don't think you chose to attend it.
Don't think there's a chooser, but there does seem to be choice. People appear to be making choices,
I get what you're
but there's
saying.
no one in there choosing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. You can go all the way with that. That applies to everything.
So is that your experience then? Are you coming from, you've experienced that yourself, it's already realized?
Yeah, I have actually done. I've had experiences where I've wanted to do something, very much so, but it's never worked. It's never gone right. There's always been something that's got in the way of it, that stopped it from happening. Not all the time, but with certain things. And I've had certain things happen where I've sort of felt I don't know. I know once I was in a room not so long ago, actually, a few months ago, and I said something to someone across the room. And I actually kind of stood back in myself because I heard the words come out, but I didn't think I'd said them. And there was like a disconnect, and it really freaked me out. I thought, what happened there? I heard those words spoken, but I didn't speak them, yet the person responded.
Oh,
It was
right.
very strange.
Yeah,
I don't know what was going on. It scared me. Excuse me, I've got a phone call coming out. I'm not
all right, okay.
Yeah. So that's another small example where I'm quite sure that the like Walter said, there's possibly choice being made, but there's not a chooser as in an individual making the choice.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Okay, we got King Baby coming in.
Hey, Walter.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Just found this interesting. I'm sorry to cut in, Kevin. It's like the conversation I was having that is precisely that. It's like at first it was like, oh, okay. It's like, okay, no one there, but I feel like a self-driving car without a car. So I can just do whatever I want. But then it's like, yeah, okay, in this illusion, dream, whatever, reality, there are some rules apparent, basic ones like gravity. There's gravity. Every day wake up and there's gravity, seemingly. I hate to use those words, I know. But since we're on these talks, it's recorded, so might as well use them. And then it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, apparently something comes back and it's like apparent choice. Just like Walter said, it's choosing. Even though it's like, there might not be a choice, there might not be a chooser, but seemingly there's a choice pops up and whatever there, that there's consequences for things we do, whether we hurt someone else, by acting in a way. At first it felt like being more selfish in a way, so that's also then you come down from it, and it's like, okay, I've hurt this person, there's, and then the feelings come back where it's like, it doesn't feel good. So it goes back to that. Like, it's like, yeah, there's a know me, there's a me, and there's a know me, but that is also another story, the story of know me. But yeah, that's all I had to share, really.
Thank you, Eligio. Are you still doing your podcast?
Yeah, once in a while I'm trying to do one, thinking of doing one, changing it up, just like I think we talked about, maybe a panel thing kind of.
Oh, very
But yeah,
nice.
I'm getting back to the years, but yeah, it's still there.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I look forward to your next video. Look up Eligio, King Baby on YouTube. Okay, Betty has her hand raised.
Hello.
Hello.
This is funny. Well, not really funny. Yeah, practically a stranger tricked me this weekend into kissing me. And it felt really uncomfortable all weekend. And yeah, I had a history long time ago, and I'm not ashamed to say it now, where I was sexually assaulted. So anytime somebody uses an intimate gesture to, to somehow take advantage, it really, even though the assault was 40 some odd years ago, it's still, and there's nobody here, and there's no such thing, there's no past, everything's happening now, but shit, you know what? That activates, it really activates up the past. Even though, a radical speaker will say, I'll say, what are those memories? There aren't any memories. Everything is happening now, but, how that happened on Saturday, he's the, the taskmaster at the dumps. Dawn, don't laugh. I thought Walter would laugh. I said, Dawn would give a chuckle, but not a hearty ha. And what he did was, I park right next to his shack because that's where you bring your heavy trash, and it's a short walk. Plus he has a camera outside, so I know I can leave my car open and my purse in there, whatever, and walk the length of the thing, the cans go to the next, and then the next, the papers, and then at the last, the cardboard. And every time, like, I'm walking back, I see him come out of the shack and he's standing by my car. But, I would chit chat, a little chit chat. Oh, the weather's beautiful. Or did you put your Christmas lights up? What are you doing for Easter? Whatever, a 5-minute chit chat. So when somebody pulls into the dumps, if you have brush or you have something you have to pay for, he's the one that goes out and estimates how much you have to pay. So he's talking to me about some Chinese conspiracy. I don't know. I just wanted to go home. I was just looking at the clouds. It was so pretty there and everything. And I was like, why isn't he going to address that man with the brush? Because if he doesn't do that, then all the cars line up behind, because you have to wait for him to pay for his fee, his brush fee. So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, why isn't he running to that man? The traffic's backing up. And I notice he has his hand out. And I'm like, I really just looked at his hand because nobody shakes hands these days. I mean, I ran into somebody who the other day, that I haven't seen, what a while. Even my cousin, when I see him, we fist bump. Nobody shakes. So I kept looking at the hand. So finally, I decided to shake the hand. And he pulled me in. Yeah. Luckily, I got my head turned fast before he smacked me on the lips. And it was a wet one too. I hate wet kisses. The only person that gave me wet kisses was my grandpa, and I loved him to death. He was a fire chief, so he could do whatever he wanted. Anyway, so then he turned and he ran real fast to the man that was waiting to pay for the brush. And I just got in my car and drove away. And then, practically the whole weekend, I'm perseverating on what to do next Saturday. Because my sister was like, why did you talk to him? I said, it was just like, don't you, when you go into like the little supermarket or something, you talk to somebody, says, whatever, they work there. They enjoy talking to you. It's a little break from their day. So, I thought, oh, isn't that nice? He wants to just chit chat. Well, anyway, yeah, it didn't feel like oneness at all. It felt like violation. And, I told a friend of mine, she doesn't even know about the past. I didn't even go into the past. And she's even older than I am. Oh, she was laughing. Isn't that cute? I wouldn't be, whatever. So I just left that alone. And anyway, I'm gonna face him. I was gonna say, oh, I'll park on the other side next week, way on the other side of the where the the cars park. I said, no, I'm gonna go right up to the shack, and I'm just gonna say to him, you know what, you violated me. And I could call the town and report you, because I bet you we're on that camera right there, but I'm not sure if we are or not. It's just like the cameras are pointing more to the dumpsters. But yeah, it just didn't, it felt like really like separation, strong separation. And there was nothing nice, and there's no feeling of oneness or unconditional love. I just wanted to voice it. But, and I don't know whether it's because of my past history. I don't know if a woman who had lots of great lovers and beautiful relationships would have thought it was very sweet, but it wasn't. And it was aggressive.
No, I mean, that's a trauma response, isn't it? And trauma lives in the body, and it's ever present. It's now as well, isn't it? It doesn't age.
Yep.
So of course, someone busts your boundaries like that. It's totally out of order, but it's going to trigger you into whatever it triggers you into. So it's oneness, and it's and it's horrible, and it's abusive, whatever. Yeah, totally. But in those moments, of course, it feels, well, it's an emotional flashback, or however it was for you. Like that's something you've got to live with, and it may never go away, like, because some trauma does and some trauma doesn't.
Well, when somebody violates you in an intimate way like that, it comes right back full force. What happened?
I get that.
It was like, because it's happened to me one other time incidentally, and it was just a couple of months ago. So I don't, I'm like, maybe I'm walking around with chakras open. I don't know what the fuck is going on, because it happened a couple of months ago too. But the guy didn't lean in to kiss me. He just grabbed me and started hugging me. I was like, he said, can I hug you? And before I had a chance to say, how about a side hug? Because that's what I was taught to do, side hugs with children. And no, so, I went through it in like October, and then I said, holy shit, East Saturday before, here he comes again. And it just puts you off, and there's no feeling of this is nice or this is oneness. And I know it is, it's just this, but it separates it's like a knife, just boom, cut it right in half. There's no wholeness.
It doesn't have to, it doesn't mean it's going to be nice, is it? Just because this is all fun, like it really, that's horrible. It really is.
Yeah. Yep.
Sure, he'll get his comeuppance. He's got it on YouTube now.
Yeah. I could go to the town, I guess. I might be, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go through that. I mean, I'm going to confront the man himself and say, he's married too. I mean, yuck. That, even, and has kids. I mean, it's disgusting. I'm going to confront him, and I'm going to say, you know what? I could find out where you live and go and tell your wife. But I'll probably just throw some threats around and that's it, you know.
Oh, yeah, fuck.
Yeah. I said, I used to have a friend, he lived around in my neighborhood. He was a family friend. And, what I would have done is I would have said, get in the car next Saturday and go to the dumps with me. Because, it tends to be when a man sees you with another man, they kind of, they back off. When they see you alone a lot, they tend to think they can, approach you some way, and I'm sure you've had it. I'm sure you've
They
experienced.
know if your boundaries are bust, don't they? Like predator, they know how to scan for that. I mean, it's
Yeah,
so smooth, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. And then I had to go through the whole thing, like, what am I projecting? Then I think there's something wrong with me. I'm like, what the fuck do you project?
Get that one. Forget that one. Get all that. Anyway, probably should. Walter, have you any anything to say?
Well, this is why I like having a trained psychotherapist on the,
Yeah.
because I do defer to Dawn on these
Yeah.
questions, because it sounds like you are triggered from something from the past, and in a way, if projection could be looked at in that way, it's just a process that happens, but it doesn't mean, it's all process. It doesn't mean it's bad, or it shouldn't be taking place. It's just what's happening, and this process of projecting into the past, basically something from the past onto the present, and refeeling
Yeah.
those feelings that were buried inside, and they just come to the surface when something like that happens. It's very jarring and violating what that person did. It doesn't matter. It's just a kiss. It was unwanted and uninvited. So
And and again, again, just like when a woman is sexually assaulted, 9 out of 10 times it's not reported, or you think, what did I do? How was I responsible for that? And, it was, again, I was thinking, what was I projecting to this man that, he thought that was okay to do? Although, he did scoot away fast, and then I wasn't going to start yelling. But anyway, I'll address it with him. I'm not going to not go there. I have to go there to dump my garbage. I was, oh, never mind. I don't know, I don't know. He left that hand hanging in the midair for a long time. I should have known. My gut was telling me fist bump. Damn. Well, whatever. Thanks for listening. It's just good to vent it out, and it's funny, you get so many different responses from people. Like the one friend who thought it was cute, I was like, ugh. Even if I hadn't had that happen in my past, that is not cute. No way. Thanks for listening.
thank you. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
Anybody else? Got 7 people in the Zoom. Bunch of people on YouTube. I don't know why I just did that. Sorry. I was trying to mute myself. I don't know. I muted you. Well, you have any thoughts on, like, I know we've talked about this a million times, but just to reiterate the point about somehow these messages can be twisted, and becomes a victim blaming situation, or a, you know, blaming yourself because you're not whatever, because you're projecting, or you're doing this or that, or you're not following the message correctly, because you're not awake enough or something like that.
Oh, right. Victim blaming because you're not following the message. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, basically just like you think, oh, I know better because it's all just what's happening,
yeah, yeah.
or it's just basically using some cliche as a way to beat yourself up, which I'm hearing sometimes in some of these questions, that we get.
Yeah, because it's only the realization that it's the human being that lives. It's a human life, isn't it? So none of these things can be lived. They're not lived, is it? It's just that there's oneness. That's all there is. But a human being negotiating life. So yeah, it is just the compulsion to imitate descriptions, because we have a tendency to project onto ideals, to imitate ideals, any ideal we have. So the awakening itself eventually doesn't always immediately dissolve that sense of authority that there's something to project onto. So it's just, if something's not okay, I mean, that it's not okay, but that also necessitates seeing through any repression, that not all repression, but the repression that's there as well. So if you haven't woken up psychologically, you could continue to sort of, in some sense, some subtle sense, imitate the message while living from a state of oneness. Maybe that would take the form of making yourself small, and taking the blame for things, or I don't know, seeing that everything is a story, it's just a dream, therefore I shouldn't have these reactions, so therefore repressing them. It could actually lead to more repression, it could lead to more denial. And I have seen that, and also it can be used then. So you can be duped after awakening and before. I think if you've still got stuff you haven't looked at, and you may not want to look at it, that's the problem as well, because you can't, if you're in a state of inner emptiness and you're living from a state of oneness, I mean, there's no reflection there that would incline you to deal with psychological material that hasn't been seen. I mean, where's the motivation going to come from? Sorry, I'm waffling on. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I mean, that's what I find.
Yeah.
So it's happened here. So.
Because it's still, I don't know, some kind of psychological process taking place. It's still, let's say, hierarchy of needs, or an evolution towards self-actualization even after awakening.
Well, yeah, and also that idea of after awakening, there's more compassion and there's more empathy, and like if you're repressed, I think, and you think you're doing good and your heart is open, everything else, you don't, there's more, in a sense, more ignorance there. Like you can manipulate, think that manipulating people's lives is a good thing in a certain way. You can have the conceit that you know what's best for someone. So it's not just having more empathy, you need more self-knowledge for that to even be something that's helpful, I think. And self-knowledge is knowledge to me, not just of, beyond the personality, but also what am I thinking, what's going on, what's in me, getting in touch with the shadow stuff as well, which is really, really hard because we don't want to admit to it. We just don't, we'll do anything. But in every case, we're always looking for some sort of superiority in, being more right than the other person, being more moral, this whole moral superiority thing. Like, it's just like right, isn't it? It's at the heart of a lot of conflicts, isn't it? It's seeing the other as somehow wrong, or depending. But that all collapses for the doormat as well, doesn't it? Because the doormat is always taking the blame, so it doesn't work when it comes to from that perspective. But I think one without the other, if you're not psychologically woken and awake, and there's awakening there, it's not terribly powerful in changing your life. It's not terribly powerful in it's not necessarily powerful in touching the lives of people around you either, because you really don't know what you're doing,
For the doormat, does that completely go away with awakening, or can there be a little doormattiness still remaining?
There can be a lot of doormattiness still. Really, there can be. I mean, in retrospect, in my own case, yeah, like, and also from people I've worked with, for sure. But it won't be known. It's not. It has to be seen. And there may be a readiness to it, but I think sometimes all people need is a bit of psychoeducation. Watching something on YouTube can just trigger it. They can recognize something. It doesn't necessarily. I don't think people necessarily need to be ready in any sense, or else they have, like I've talked about before, energetic experiences that just in their wake, not necessarily the content of the experience, but perhaps even just in their wake, give rise to these resolution of certain conflicts, resolution of other kind of unresolved material, the seeing of that can bring clarity as well. So it's just interesting, but it makes a massive difference in bringing your life, living from this seeing rather than just, you're living from this seeing anyway, but living consciously, because it's the consciousness increases and it can decrease as well. Of course, you could surround yourself with very unconscious people, and you're going to internalize some of that, because we do not stand alone. We're social beings, and so we internalize whatever's around us. So you can go backwards. It's not, you can stay stuck too. So we need to be aware. We need to know what we're doing. We need to know what's healthy in our lives. We need to know what self-care is, and to do that as well, I think, because
well, we had a question from Kingdale Clark. He says, what do you think of people who say non-duality is just another search? Sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but it can be the search it can be so compulsive, that whole idea of that your head's in the tiger's mouth. You can get so stuck in it that no other search comes close. Like it can take over your entire life, which is the scary thing about it, because it's kind of a waste of time and kind of puts life on hold. So it's really, really difficult. And so, and everything else becomes secondary to that, like when it is like that, which seems kind of unfortunate, given that we've only got so many years. After awakening, it just seems so unimportant. And yeah, okay, so things change, but it's just your landscape, right? It's just the landscape you live in. It's not, I'm just saying, it's hard to say, isn't it? So many years have passed since mine. It becomes so normal that it's actually hard to get a perspective on that. But maybe initially it's a game changer, of course. It's a massive game changer. But there are other game changers too. So I don't know.
What do you guys think about memories? Because you know, when I've spoken to a radical person, it's, you know, well, nothing's happening. It's all happening this instantaneous second. Or it's not even a second. And I'm always trying to get a handle on memory, because there's lots of memories. What's your opinion about memory?
Do you want to go?
Oh, sure. Well, memories, what's appearing now as well. Yeah, that's it.
Memories are lovely. I mean, some of them, I mean, some people might have really horrible ones, but I mean, memories are certainly my experience are good, and I'm glad of them. I mean, it'd be quite sad if you didn't have memories, I think, occasionally. I mean, it's really lovely, just no thought, nothing arising at all internally. That's beautiful too, but I like a bit of memory too. It's nice. So, but yeah, so
Yeah.
what's arising, isn't it? But I mean, it's great having a story. I mean, what's better than that? I mean, no story. I mean, it sounds boring. Sounds rather have a story.
And just say what Betty was talking about what some people say is instantaneous. I mean, I find that to me seems to make a lot of sense. The instantaneous, what she was referring to about the Neo Advaita thought about it. I mean, I really, where's the proof that 2 minutes ago happened, apart from memory? It is conceivable to me that you sort of reality like flashes much quicker than possibly the speed of light into existence, if you like. And in that moment, it's not even a moment, but in that appearance, there's everything that needs to be there, including a memory of something that might have happened 3 minutes ago, or 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. And then it's gone. And then the next flash comes up, and it's not connected to that flash. It doesn't have to be connected to it whatsoever, as long as you have the memories in your head that seem to make sense to you. There's no need, there's no evidence for something that happened 5 seconds ago. If this flashing is continuous, so I personally don't believe in a past in that sense anymore. I used to, of course, but now I find it very difficult to hang on to it.
But we still live in time, in the timeless, in the sense that, you know, you can't, if you ignore the past, if you don't look at the past, I mean, it can really cripple you. And if you're not aware of that, I mean.
No, Dawn, I'm not saying that you need to ignore the past. I'm just saying, is the past
you're not. I know
really in a linear way, or is there a vertical way? I'm saying it's a vertical, instantaneous, unconnected
yeah, I get that.
appearance.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because a lot of people take that, don't they, as a kind of dismissal of the past, and a kind of, well, what's the point of looking at it? A lot of people do see that, you know, they think, well, in that case, I don't, you know, and if I do therapy, I don't need to look at my past, and it's because it's not real. And
No, because everything is in that moment. Even the thought, oh, I don't want to, what's the point in doing therapy, is in this instantaneous moment. And it seems so real. And the next one will seem so real. So it's not an argument that, you know, there's no point in doing anything because nothing ever happened, etc. Because to the person or the thing or the body mind that's experiencing it will seem very, very real, very, very credible.
I suppose, I mean, I just don't even talk like that. I mean, but I guess we're talking on a Zoom, right? So you talk about things in a way maybe you wouldn't normally talk about. So
what's that? Talking about what? Sorry?
What you're just saying, like, you know, it's just what's appearing in the moment. And
I'm saying that reality is appearing in less than a moment, and then it's disappearing, and then it's reappearing. I'm not in any way putting down or negating or in any way making trivial all the suffering in the world where I was coming from before. We just sort of having an open dog discussion about it.
Yeah.
It will seem to be, it's all we've got in our sense of reality. So it does have in the first place, it does have a value. But actually, maybe it has no value at all, but it makes it no less beautiful.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's all valuable, yeah, and it's beautiful, and it's precious. I mean, it's really precious, I think, memory and the life we've lived. I mean, just is.
But the point is, though, does it really apply to a past? Does it really
Yeah,
apply to a
when I
linear
think about
past?
memory, I think about my past and my
Hmm.
daughter's past. Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Okay,
it's
I just
real,
don't
and
get
it's
that.
real in the timeless, in the oneness. It's
Yeah.
real. It's the only reality we have. It's and nothing
Yeah.
is happening. It's the paradox again. It's the it's the relative within the absolute, which is not true, and yet it's a way of talking about it that makes sense of our experience, without which I think things get.
Absolutely.
I know you get that.
Everything you said, all that you're saying is still okay in the model of, if you like to call it a model, of this instantaneousness that never lasts, that comes fresh every time, that is not connected in any way to the last one. It still stands up.
Yep.
Okay.
But it does feel like, just like you would say, there's an, the speakers say there's an illusory person or an apparent setting. It does feel like there is an apparent reality.
It's got to feel like that.
Yeah.
Well, one
all
of the things,
memories accumulated in this apparent reality.
Very clever, isn't it? It's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
impressive. Who could do that?
We're in the same apparent reality. Okay, Kevin. Thank you. Thanks,
Okay,
Dawn.
thank you.
I think one of the things I was saying earlier is there isn't this fascination with time and this being an illusion or an appearance. I feel like this just was that spontaneous, apparent moment where this was seen. It's sort of whatever, had this effect on this character's life, etc. But now life is just being lived very normally, and I'm thinking about, not thinking about non-duality. I guess, I'm not obsessed with non-duality, or I'm not thinking about memory in that way, or time in that way, or space, or, trying to understand it intellectually. It just is, and so sometimes I struggle, like there's a lot of questions in the air about things I'm not concerned about at all, or don't really have an opinion about. All these different practices and methods and rituals and different books people are mentioning. And, the science is vaguely interesting, but, I don't get too much into that either. It's just whatever's arising. So maybe I'm interested in music and pursuing different things. And I got, I'm moving pretty soon. I got a lot of things going on. I'm busy at work. I'm not, it's just, it's kind of funny to say, because I know this is a non-duality meeting. So, but when we get into like nuts and bolts of why time is appearing the way it is, and, it just sort of loses me. It's just, this is what just seems to be happening. And I don't know why. I don't have to know why. It's what is. So get to some of these anyway. Jack Saturday says, seems we can all tap into the truth of not being able to remember the present moment. This is a universal No one remembers being the bodies actually are. No one remembers being where the bodies actually are. Sure. Let's see, we'll go back here. Yeah, so what do you think about people who follow a book called Intention into Hermetics? It is said in that book that one attains adepthood, they can fly, turn invisible, affect mind at all distance, levitate. See, that's kind of like what I was talking about. I'm not obsessed with all these powers but I don't know. What do I think about it? It's just what's happening. It's fine.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Might pay attention to that if that's my experience, but I haven't, to my knowledge, ever been able to levitate. Like, like there is, like a doubt about certain things that I've never experienced, and so I can kind of understand why people don't get, like, some people don't get that there's such a state as no mind state, no thought whatsoever, and because that's not in their experience. I think Freud was open to awakening, the whole idea of all time being present, everything happening at once, but even though he hadn't experienced it, he was kind of open to that, like listening to it. I don't think he did anything with it, but so it takes a lot, I think, just to have an openness to it. But to me, I'm not interested in, I'm interested in the Kundalini stuff because it's happened here, and because the fascination comes from that, and the learning through that. But so yeah, I don't know about that stuff, but people people do have these, I don't doubt this, people experience interesting sort of more occult kind of stuff. For some people that seems, and I've got at least one friend I know who's very into that and has a lot of experiences along those lines, but I can't access that. It's not what's happened, what's ever happened here. So therefore there's a kind of lack of interest. So I can understand why people are kind of just not interested in what they haven't experienced. So there's a lot of people going around, but then this is the reality. There's nothing else but this, whatever, how many years of life and death and the boring, grim, grey reality with nothing other than that, which is to me really hellish, because I remember that, and it's like, my God, if this is all there is to life, I wish to God I'd never been born. And I really felt that quite deeply during the years of my own existential angst and stuff, because
Yeah, but Dawn, when you say that this is all there is to life, God, etc., when your change of mind came, when your awakening came, whichever it was, apparently, what did change? Everything was pretty much the same as it was, surely, to look at.
No, not to look at. Perception was amplified, so everything was more beautiful. I could see the stillness and everything. I could feel that. It also, the desire to kill myself, had dissolved. There was just, just the peace. That was unfathomable to me. I wouldn't have believed that there was such a thing as peace. Like I couldn't. And also that existential angst dissolved in that, the fear of death, because the fear of death wasn't so, that kind of goes. So yeah, but everything changed. For me, it was kind of massive, but at the same time, yeah, life went on as normal. Well, it didn't really go on as normal. It became a bit more normal over time, but it really wasn't normal. It was just extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was extraordinary, and yeah, now it's just more normal. But yeah, to go back to that, I don't know, because my own experience of life, I just found it unlivable. I couldn't understand why other people found it livable. So for me, it was so difficult that I do wonder, like, how do people live without seeing beyond this, or having some sort of experience of another kind of reality, even just the Kundalini stuff, anything. If you know, how can you live if you're an atheist, say, or even agnostic, or just having no non-dual awakening, or no matter how great the highs are, you can live an exciting life, but it doesn't. That's suffering too, isn't it? Excitement is a kind of suffering. It upsets the equilibrium, doesn't it? This kind of brings everything kind of a little bit more in the middle, but it kind of joy is kind of juicy middle, kind of somehow. So
Right.
I think.
Yeah. I listened to all that, and it's really interesting what you had to say. But I put it in with my view, as I said earlier, about this instantaneous bang, 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 flash, 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 flash. And what you said is still valid, even if it came like that, just flash, 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 it's still valid, even if every moment is brand new and unconnected, because it's your experience, it's what you remember. I think memory is extremely important. There's not much left if you take memory away, with your personal history, etc., your evolution. So, but I'm still of the mind that it all happens so incredibly quickly. You can't imagine how quickly it happens, and it's fresh each time. So in that sense, for me, there is really no past. Even though I can tell you, experiences when I was a child, and I think I had lots of ups and downs, some very unfortunate times, and they're there. But where did they happen?
It's very different, even talking about that. I mean, the energy goes out of a lot of that, I think, as well, doesn't it? So it becomes more neutral, and the charge in it, the suffering in it, it's all kind of gone. It seems, it does seem, yeah, there is an unreality to that, and then that's a definite thing. I can talk about certain things, and it's kind of like, if I really look at that while I'm talking, it can seem, well, what is this? What the fuck is going on? So, and I find that more disturbing at first. I've got used to that. I think I've kind of, acclimatized to that, but initially I did find that disturbing. So I would be in therapy because I trained to be a therapist. So I would talk about my past, and it would be like, this is just, this is nuts, because it never happened, it never was, and so yeah, I get that as well. There can be a kind of weird disturbing. It's not disturbing in I use that word, but like words have a different kind of meaning. It's a kind of just almost like it should be disturbing, but it's not. But it's different. It's so different. I'm just saying it's beautiful because there is something beautiful about it, but it's got a different weight to it, or no weight to it maybe, but nevertheless, there it is. That's all we got, really. Like getting up in the morning, you're doing your thing, there's things you look forward to, there's things you regret for a split second, but it doesn't hang around the same way, does it? But you can still use the word regret, but
right.
Even that I'm sure it could for some people, and certain things. There's a couple of memories I do have, and they can still trigger, a response, but not a massive, but so some things don't lose their charge, and it depends. That's the individual. Depends on every case, doesn't it? And so I don't really judge someone's experience with this, because I think it can happen in so many different ways. And okay, we all know basically what it is, what you can kind of tell if someone's how they speak about it in a way, whether that is the case, there is awakening there or not. But yeah, I mean, it's just, the emphasis is different, isn't it? And for some people there's more trauma in the body, or whatever it is, different character. So that's a mistake I think you can make as well. As you wake up, you think everybody's in the same, functioning the same. It can be radically different, I think, even though
I don't think it's the same for everybody at all. It can't be. each person will have their own individual, or say individual, have their own apparent separate experience of awakening, or discovering something about themselves they didn't know, or discovering the truth of things. It's going to be slightly different, I think, for each person. Otherwise, you're back to that sameness again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's not if there is a point to it, it can't be sameness, because that's what it is to begin with. It's being, one being. Why would one being create a universe that behaved as one being, one perspective,
Yeah.
one feeling? It just doesn't make sense. Not that it has to, but
Yeah.
So,
It's a strange planet, and nothing is what it is. Like, it is difficult. This life is difficult. I think it's funny even having that perspective on it as well. Like, what the hell this is? Like, really, it's on paper, it's really not something I can imagine signing up for. Like, on one level, like, but who knows?
sign up for this now. Oh, well. Here you are.
Bad luck.
At last. Tough. Tough luck.
No.
God knows.
We got Jim in the chat says, why and what rotten things happened in my emotionally sick family? That is my reality, and it might change later on. I won't speak in vague, non-dual theories and cliches. What do you think about that, Don?
What was the start of it? What happened in my
Why rotten things happened in my emotionally sick family? That's my reality, and it might change later on. I won't speak in vague, non-dual theories and cliches.
Oh, I mean, it's an infinite regress, isn't it? Like, that emotional fucking toxicity was created by the previous generation and previous. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of, that doesn't answer anything. Why? Okay, so he's answering, yeah, like, I mean, who knows? Maybe you did sign up for them. Maybe it's learning. I don't know why you'd want to learn that, like, but yeah, of course. I mean, what's the point? And then the non-dual thing is there's no need of that, but so I mean, and yeah. But who knows? Who knows what this is? Maybe there is a point to it, who knows? But yeah, I mean, that question does tend to float away in the seeing of this. You can explore it as well. I mean, I think if you have other experiences, energetic experiences, you may well ask that question as well, because it is interesting, because there's more than one experience of this, right? From my perspective anyway. So
We got a lot of these questions that he asks the same questions every week. But what do you think of people who say non-duality isn't real and we were all just biological human beings who were born, live, and die, and you are responsible?
I used to think like that. I mean, that's fine. So what? So what? It's just a belief, like any other belief, isn't it? It can be a really strong one, that though. Like, it can be really fiercely defended as well. Like, stay away from my beliefs, But then you could just go pop, can you? And be like, oh, that's not true for me anymore. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. Cool.
All right.
Right.
What can you say about astral projection, AKA out of body experiences from a non-duality perspective?
From a non-duality perspective, so they arise like anything else. They have as much reality in my experience as anything else. You know, some people experience that as more real than this human experience. So, yeah, I mean, who needs a body to have experience? You know, this body's appearing. The perspective can be from anywhere. It can be, you know, yeah. I don't think, you know, I don't think we die. That's, you know, from my own experiences. So out of body experience makes sense to me, and I've had them. So, but yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, I don't know. What the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? Probably means that this isn't the only reality, like I'm saying. But if that's not your experience, you'll just be skeptical and probably not interested in that one bit. You just think this is boring, which is fine.
Yeah, I guess, you know, some of these questions, I could just speculate, I could say something, but it's astral projection is not something I think about ever. So I'm just being honest, you know, not to be rude, but it's just not. But anyway, let's call on Eligio, who has his hand.
Okay. I was thinking about Dawn said a little while ago. Did she just say that she has Dawn, do you have times when you don't you have no thinking? You
I've
witness
periods like that. I go in and out of that. So
uh,
periods of no thinking, and then periods of thinking. It kind of comes and goes.
that's interesting.
It's
And how
not.
do you measure that? Like, okay, so I'm thinking. I haven't really thought about that, doing that. But if you're not thinking, something may come around and say you're not thinking, and then that's thinking.
What do you mean?
Or is it in a meditative state? Do you meditate and get into it?
No, it's not. It's not.
It just comes and goes.
It just comes and goes. There are certain situations that may seem to kind of bring it about more readily. Like if I'm just sitting having a cup of tea or something, or walking, say, or just like in a state of non-doing, like that seems to bring it about much more outdoors, or just consciously maybe just dropping thought. There are only some times where it seems compulsive, but it used to be much more ongoing, where it'd be, you know, all day. You know, there could be several days with nothing, and you know, so because I enjoy it, I just like to think as well, like, so I
Okay.
find it interesting.
I'm going to try to pay attention to that if that happens. But thank you, Don.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when the person was talking about astral projection, I bought, this is a couple of years back now, one of those blankets, 12 pounds with the glass balls inside. Because the astral projection, the landing was real bad and I didn't like it anymore. And believe it or not, the blanket works wonderfully. So if that person's being bothered by astral projection, those weighted blankets work wonders. Okay. Serious. that landing is rough, Babu. I mean, come on. Coming back down. And don't let the silver cord snap because you'll never come back.
Not everybody gets the silver cord though, do they? Like, you know.
No, I never did see the silver
I'd be
cord. It
scared,
was
I'd be
just
scared
flying, just zooming around.
now.
But the blanket works wonders. I'm telling you.
Right. So some people do get a silver cord, don't
I
they?
want.
I don't. uh,
And I could never go without thinking all, for days on end. It just can't happen. The mind is constantly going. It has to be like a meditation. And even in meditation, sometimes the mind starts going and it's just doesn't stop. It's always, look at that, look at this, da-da-da-da-da-da. But I'm in a really beautiful spot right now. Uh-oh, what happened?
Nice.
Something just came on. In a really pretty spot, and I'm like sitting in the middle of, I don't know what, it's like a wetland area. And so when I cut out of here, I'm gonna see what happens. I'll put the camera on. Where's my camera?
Where are you then?
See it? Can you see it?
That's beautiful. Oh, it's amazing. Wow. Wish I was there.
Yeah, it's a really pretty spot. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I bet you are.
No matter what the motherfucker did.
I'm good for you.
Thanks. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Enjoy. That does look beautiful. Well, we have a few minutes left. Anybody we haven't heard from want to jump in, or any returning guests?
Oh, quiet.
Hmm.
Well, I left my body last night. There you go.
All right.
Tell us more.
I was gonna say that, but yeah.
I don't know what happened. Okay, so 4 beings came, took me out of bed, and I saw my body in the bed, and I knew I was dead. I just knew I'm dead. And they took me on a journey. One of them was really amazing, beautiful, kind of angel type, whatever. She was holding my hand. And I thought, well, it's kind of a short life, long enough. I wonder what I died of. I was kind of pondering that, and I was walking with these 4 beings kind of after we flew. I don't know where the hell we were, and then suddenly I thought, hey, something's happened. I'm not dead, and bang, I was back. My body.
Wow.
Well, not in my body, not anywhere, but it was interesting being dead. It was the excitement of my night anyway.
That's a very exciting night.
Wow. Yeah. And did it make an impact on you? Like you may remember it for a long time, Dawn, or has this happened often and it'll
So
just fade away?
I don't suppose.
How-
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was different in the sense of just like no sense of regret about leaving the body. So I guess it was an ND like. I mean, I've had similar-ish, but very different kind of ones. It was nice that it was not a hell experience or an in-between. It was very love, I was going to a good place. I was going to the good place, which was nice. Yeah. Yeah. Death is nice. Death seems really nice. Like, that's what I took. So I do feel like I died, but maybe my breathing stopped for a minute or my heart stopped. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Natalie wants to know, when did you first experience this leaving the body at night? Have you ever been scared when it's happening?
4 years. 4.5 years ago. No, not scared, just fascinated, just interested. Only scared when the experience was scary. Leaving the body, yeah, just different dimension stuff. Actually, there is a fear. What am I saying? There has been just a kind of like, like, are the beings or any beings I meet, are they okay? Are they going to be dark? Are they going to be dangerous? Are they going to be horrible? Are they going to be loving or what? Like there is a bit of that. But after I return, it doesn't seem to leave much of an impact, like as in my equilibrium just seems to return very quickly, which I find interesting, even though it's been a really terrifying journey. Like, find that like interesting. But I won't sleep. Like, nevertheless, I'll be up. Like, and insomnia is a pain in the arse. Like everybody knows. I mean, so many people suffer from it, don't they? It's a real pain. But as I guess a lot of you know, but it goes hand in hand. It walks hand in hand, sometimes with awakening as well. I don't know whether it's just letting go of so much stuff, so much energy. There seems to be like this really huge still energy, and you can be awake with very little sleep for a long time, I think, with a lot of these things. Which makes normal functioning a wee bit difficult, because you can't, doing the practical stuff, that can make it quite difficult as well. But it's all right, muddling through, putting one foot in front of the other, that's possible, usually.
She said, is it completely different than waking? Thoughts, emotions, etc.?
No, exactly the same.
Oh.
Except there's literally fuck all attachment. Like last night, there was no attachment to that dead body. But just there was a bit of curiosity, what seemed to be a dead body, but a little bit of curiosity about what happened. How did it die? Maybe it was murdered during the night. Maybe an internal combustion, something, I don't know.
Well, I guess we're out of time. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And we'll be here next week. Oh, tell me where I'm going to die and I'll never go there, says Eligio. Very good. So next week, same time, same channel, right?
Yep. Yeah. Same time. Yeah.
How's the live talks going? You got any of those coming up?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess most of you can't make it anyway, but this Friday in the Philadelphia Association in Hampstead, I've got a in-person meeting at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and there's a social afterwards, and it's great fun. So if you can, or just fly over, join us. It'll be worth it for 2 hours. Sure. Definitely worth it.
Going live in concert.
Exciting.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I guess that's about, you can join me here next week. I forget, be interviewing somebody, and then we'll do this again. So I'll put out a video announcing all that. I forget what time that is. I wasn't prepared. I don't have my own plugs prepared. All right. But anyway, stay tuned to this channel and you'll find out everything you need to know. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Dawn.
See ya.